This alien girl's bite killed any species, but the human man only smiled and stayed. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main characters. Liam Roberts stood alone in the vast, dimly lit room of the research station. The walls, covered in strange alien symbols and glowing lights, seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and the cold, metallic smell of the station hung in the air. He had always prided himself on his calmness under pressure, but today was different. He was facing something entirely new. In front of him stood Zalara, an alien warrior with striking blue skin and silver eyes that shone like stars in the darkness. Her presence was commanding, almost otherworldly, and yet there was something oddly familiar in her gaze. She had been quiet for what felt like an eternity, her sharp, predatory eyes never leaving him as she sized him up. Liam knew the rumors about her species. Their bite was lethal to any creature, and no species had ever survived an encounter with one of them. But none of that mattered right now. The only thing that mattered was the moment they shared. "You're not afraid?" She finally spoke, her voice low and almost teasing. Her words were like a challenge. Liam met her gaze, a slight smile curling at the corner of his lips. "Should I be?" he asked, his voice steady, betraying no hint of fear. Zalara's lips twitched upward, though it was impossible to tell if it was a smile or just an expression of amusement. She stepped closer to him, her movements fluid and graceful, like a predator assessing its prey. He didn't back away, didn't flinch. His confidence, perhaps too bold in the face of danger, was unshakable. He had survived worse. "You should be," she murmured, her eyes narrowing as she stood just inches away from him. "Most would already be dead. But you're different. I can't sense fear in you." "What?" Liam stood tall, despite the enormous difference in their size and strength. The only thing he could feel was the electric tension between them. "I've faced worse," he said simply, not feeling the need to explain himself further. He knew she wasn't asking for a detailed answer. She wanted to see how he would react. And she pressed, her voice soft but piercing. He took a deep breath, letting the cool air of the station fill his lungs, and then slowly exhaled, keeping his eyes locked on hers. "And I'm still here. Alive." He gave her a wink, his nonchalance only adding to the tension. Zalara tilted her head slightly, intrigued by his calm demeanor. She had never encountered anyone like him before. Most beings cowered in fear when they realized who she was and what she could do. But not him. He was different. In this moment, their worlds collided. The alien's sharp instincts told her to attack, to eliminate the threat, but something about Liam's presence made her hesitate. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, not with fear or awe, but with a quiet understanding. As she stood there, pondering the situation, Liam smiled again, his calmness almost unnerving. "So, what happens now?" he asked, his voice almost casual, but his eyes never leaving hers. The space between them seemed to shrink, the air around them growing thicker with every passing second. "Now," Zalara whispered, "you'll see what happens next." And for the first time, she felt something she hadn't expected. A strange, unfamiliar pull in her chest. A connection. Despite the danger, despite the difference in their species, Liam wasn't afraid. And that, she realized, made him something far more dangerous than anyone she had ever met. As Zalara and Liam stood in the cold, metallic corridors of the station, the tension between them seemed to thicken. Liam's steady gaze never wavered, despite the fact that he knew exactly what she was capable of. Alien or not, her reputation preceded her. Her bite was known to be lethal, a death sentence for anyone unfortunate enough to encounter it. Yet, here he was, unshaken and still standing, almost daring her to make the first move. Zalara's silvery eyes narrowed slightly as she studied him, her mind racing. She had dealt with fear, panic, and submission before. But Liam, he was something different. He wasn't afraid, and that intrigued her more than she cared to admit. "Tell me, human," Zalara's voice was soft but laced with an edge, "why do you not fear me?" Most species tremble when they realize what I am capable of. Liam gave a small, almost imperceptible shrug, his smile never faltering. Maybe I'm just tired of running from things that scare me, he replied, his voice calm, almost too calm. She tilted her head, studying him with keen interest. The fact that he wasn't reacting the way every other species did, the way she expected, fascinated her. Is that why you're not afraid? Because you've already faced worse? She asked, her voice dropping into a quiet challenge. Liam didn't answer right away. Instead, he took a step closer, closing the distance between them. It's not about being fearless, he said, his tone becoming serious. It's about facing things head-on, no matter the odds. Zalara's lips quirked upward at the edges. You truly believe you can face anything, don't you? She asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. He nodded, unfazed by her growing presence. I believe in facing what's in front of me. And right now, that's you. There was a moment of silence between them, one where both seemed to be measuring the other, as if seeing who would blink first. Zalara wasn't used to being the one who hesitated, but something about Liam's presence made her question her instincts. You know, you're different, she said, her voice softer now, almost to herself. I've never met a human like you before. Liam smiled slightly, but there was no arrogance in it, just quiet confidence. Maybe that's because most people don't take the time to really see each other. They see what they want to see. And what do you see? She asked, her curiosity piqued. Liam's eyes met hers, and for the first time, there was no bravado, no hiding behind his usual calm demeanor. There was just honesty. I see a warrior. But I also see someone who doesn't have to fight all the time, he said, his voice low, almost as if speaking more to himself than to her. Zalara blinked, caught off guard by his words. It wasn't often that anyone saw beyond her role as a soldier, as a weapon, but Liam had, and that, for some reason, made her chest tighten in an unfamiliar way. She could feel the tension in the air between them, crackling like static, but it wasn't the kind of tension she was used to. This was something else, something deeper. And what would you do if I tried to bite you? She asked, her voice almost playful now. Liam's gaze never left hers as he replied, I'd stop you. The challenge hung in the air, but there was no fear in his voice. Just certainty. The corner of Zalara's mouth twitched upward again, and she took a slow step back, studying him carefully. You think you can stop me? She asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. Maybe, Liam said, his smile returning, but I think it's worth a shot. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They just stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills, and despite the palpable tension, there was something about this moment that felt oddly right. Neither of them could deny the pull between them. Zalara found herself thinking, for the first time in a long while, that maybe Liam was more than just a human. Maybe, just maybe, he was someone worth knowing. She met his eyes again, and in that brief moment, something shifted between them. It was subtle, but undeniable. A connection. Something that went beyond species, beyond differences. And despite everything, despite the odds stacked against them, Zalara couldn't help but wonder if this was only the beginning. The station had fallen silent once more, the quiet hum of the power systems the only sound filling the space between them. Liam and Zalara stood face to face, neither of them moving. The tension from before had not gone away, but now it had shifted. It was no longer about survival or fear, but something deeper, more unspoken. Zalara's sharp, silvery eyes studied him with intensity, and Liam could feel her assessing him, still trying to understand him. He was unlike anyone she had met, and in her line of work, that was saying something. You really don't fear me, do you? She asked again, the question hanging in the air. Not in the way you think, Liam replied, his voice calm, but there was a firmness to it. He didn't shy away from her gaze. She was different from the others, yes, but that didn't make her any more dangerous than the situations he had faced before. And what? Do you think that means? She pressed, her voice lowering slightly, her curiosity now a palpable force. Liam shrugged, his eyes never leaving hers. It means I'm not going to treat you like a threat just because of what you're capable of. I believe in giving people a chance to show who they are, not just what they can do. For a moment, Zalara said nothing. She just watched him, as if trying to figure out whether his words were genuine or just another clever defense. You're different, she said again, this time with a hint of something softer in her voice. It wasn't admiration, Not yet, but it was the beginning of something close to it. I've met humans before. They're all the same, afraid, weak, quick to submit. Liam smiled slightly, a small but honest smile that seemed to disarm her further. Maybe the problem is you've been meeting the wrong kind of humans, he said, his tone light. But there was no mistaking the conviction behind his words. She tilted her head, intrigued despite herself. And you think you're different? I'm not here to prove anything to you, Liam replied. I'm just trying to stay alive, and I figure the best way to do that is to keep my wits about me. That's all. I'm not some great hero. I'm just me. Zalara let out a small, almost inaudible chuckle, surprising both of them. She hadn't expected that. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, she said, her voice softening even more. Maybe both, Liam said, grinning now. There was something about the way she spoke that made him feel like he was seeing her for the first time. She wasn't just a weapon. She wasn't just a threat. She was more than that. He could see the layers of complexity behind her cold exterior, the walls she built up around herself. They weren't just for show. They were protection. Protection from a universe that had seen her as nothing more than a killer. But Liam didn't see her that way. He saw something else, something deeper, even if he couldn't quite name it yet. You said you weren't afraid, Zalara said, her tone suddenly more serious, the weight of her words hanging between them. What if I told you that you should be? Liam met her eyes with unwavering resolve. Then I'd tell you that I'm still not afraid, because I'm not scared of you. I'm just trying to understand you. Zalara's eyes widened slightly, and for the briefest moment, she looked uncertain. It was the first crack in her armor that Liam had seen, and it made him realize something. She wasn't the monster she had been made out to be. She was just a being, just like him. And if there was one thing Liam had learned in his life, it was that people, no matter their species, were always more complicated than they appeared. Zalara stood there, silent for a moment, her mind working through what he had said. She had been prepared for a fight, for the usual resistance. But here, in this quiet, lonely station, surrounded by the remnants of their shared struggle, she found herself unsure. Was it possible that Liam was telling the truth? That he wasn't just trying to get her to lower her guard? Was it possible that there was something more here? Her thoughts were interrupted when Liam spoke again, his voice low but steady. Look, I don't know what your people have done to you, or what you've had to do to survive. But I know one thing. You're not alone in this. I'm not going anywhere. Zalara blinked, her heart beating faster than she cared to admit. She wasn't used to hearing those words. Words that didn't come with a hidden agenda. Words that didn't carry the weight of expectation. She wasn't used to someone just being there, without asking for anything in return. And for the first time in a long while, Zalara felt a flicker of something unfamiliar inside her chest. It was hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, there was more to this encounter than survival. Maybe, just maybe, it could be something else. The air in the station was thick with an uneasy silence. The faint hum of the power systems was the only sound that broke the quiet. Liam stood in the same spot, his gaze still locked on Zalara. Despite the tension between them, he felt a strange calmness inside him, a certainty that this moment, whatever it was leading to, was important. Zalara, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about his words. He wasn't afraid. He didn't fear her like everyone else did. It was something so simple, yet so foreign to her. For a long time, she had been the predator, the one everyone feared. But here she was, standing face to face with a human who refused to be intimidated. She was used to power, used to being in control. But Liam was different. You keep saying you're not afraid, she said, her voice softer now, almost contemplative. But do you really understand what you're up against? Liam smiled, that same calm, easy smile that had been with him since they first met. I understand enough to know that fear won't get me anywhere. And it definitely won't get me answers. His words hit her harder than she expected. Zalara looked at him, her gaze searching, as though trying to read him, to find the weakness she was certain he must have. But there was nothing but the same quiet confidence. You think you'll find answers by standing here, with me? She asked, her voice still carrying the weight of her doubt. Liam stepped forward, closing the gap between them by a few inches. I think I'll find answers by not running from what's in front of me, even if it's something I don't understand. Zalara could feel the tension building again, but this time, it was different. It wasn't the kind of tension that came with a fight. It was something else. Something that made her heart beat a little faster than she wanted to admit. She had been trained to think of humans as weak, as simple creatures who were easily dominated. But Liam was making her question everything she knew. "You're wrong about humans," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You don't know what we're capable of." Liam's smile faded just a little, replaced by a serious expression. "I know what you're capable of," he said, his voice steady. "But I also know that you're more than just your strength. You're more than just your bite." Zalara blinked, surprised by the sincerity in his words. She hadn't expected him to say that. She was used to people fearing her for what she could do, not seeing beyond that. She had always been more than just a weapon, but no one had ever taken the time to understand her. No one had ever cared to see what was underneath. Liam, it seemed, was different. "And what about you?" Zalara asked, her voice quiet now, almost vulnerable. "What's underneath for you?" Liam paused for a moment, his gaze softening as he looked at her. "I'm just a man. I'm not anything special. But I've learned that sometimes, the things that seem impossible are the things worth facing head on." For the first time, Zalara's expression softened, and she looked away, her thoughts racing. She had never been one to show weakness, never one to open up to anyone. But there was something about Liam that made her want to do just that. She didn't know what it was, but the way he looked at her made her feel like maybe, just maybe, there was something more to this encounter than just survival. The silence between them stretched on, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful in a way. Zalara, for once, wasn't thinking about the next fight, the next challenge. She was just standing there, in this moment, with a human who wasn't afraid of her. And it felt different. "You're not what I expected," she said finally, breaking the silence. "I've been trained to think of humans as weak, as easily defeated. But you're not like that." Liam chuckled softly. "I don't know about being anything special, but I can promise you this. I'm not afraid of you, and I'm not going anywhere." Zalara's heart skipped a beat at his words. For the first time in a long while, she felt a glimmer of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this connection they shared wasn't a fluke. That maybe, against all odds, they could find something more than just survival. And in that moment, as they stood in the quiet station, Zalara realized that she didn't want to leave. Not yet. She wanted to stay, to see where this strange, unspoken bond might lead. The silence between them was almost peaceful, a stark contrast to the usual tension that filled the station. Liam stood close to Zalara, his gaze steady, but there was a softness in his eyes now, a kind of understanding. Zalara, however, was still unsure of what to make of him. She had seen countless warriors, mercenaries, and soldiers, all of them with one goal in mind, survival. But Liam was different. There was no fear in his eyes, no arrogance, just a quiet calm that made her wonder how he could stand there, unshaken, in front of her. "You said you're not going anywhere," Zalara said, breaking the silence. Her voice was almost hesitant, as if testing the words before they left her mouth. "Why?" Liam smiled, the same gentle smile he had shown her before. "Because you're not the enemy. I'm not here to fight you." His words were simple, but there was a depth to them that Zalara hadn't expected. She had always been trained to see things in black and white. Either you were a threat, or you were not. But Liam wasn't following those rules. He didn't see her as a threat. And that, more than anything, made her pause. "You don't understand," Zalara said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "My kind, we don't trust easily. We don't let anyone in." She turned her gaze away, looking out at the cold, empty expanse of the station. "I wasn't meant to be here, in this place, with you." Liam took a step closer, but didn't crowd her. "And yet, here we are," he said softly. "I don't think we're meant to understand everything right away. But sometimes, it's worth taking the chance to figure it out." The words hung between them, and for a moment, Zalara felt the weight of them settle into her chest. She had spent so long pushing people away, convincing herself that she didn't need anyone. But Liam's presence, his calm acceptance, was starting to make her question everything she had believed. She turned back to him, her silver eyes studying him closely. "You're different," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't understand you." Liam's expression softened, and for the first time, he allowed himself to show a glimpse of the vulnerability he had been holding back. "You don't need to understand me," he said, his voice low. "But maybe, just maybe, You could let me help you understand yourself. The words were simple, but they cut through the layers she had built up around herself, and for the first time, Zalara felt a crack in her defenses. She wasn't sure what it meant, or where it would lead, but the idea of letting someone in, of letting him help her, felt oddly comforting. Zalara took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling with the weight of the decision she was about to make. She had always been alone, always been the one in control. But now, with Liam standing before her, she realized that maybe it wasn't so bad to share a part of herself with someone else. "Why do you care?" she asked, her voice steady now, though there was a hint of something softer beneath it. Liam didn't hesitate. "Because I believe everyone deserves to be seen for who they truly are, not just what they can do or what they've been trained to be." Zalara felt something shift inside her at his words, a spark of something she hadn't felt in years. It was hope. Hope that maybe she could be more than just the warrior she had always been. Maybe she could be something else. She took another step toward him, her movements slower now, more deliberate. "And what if I can't let go of the past?" she asked, her voice soft but laced with doubt. "What if I can't change who I am?" Liam reached out, just enough to close the distance between them without forcing it. "You don't have to change. You just have to be willing to let someone see you." Zalara's heart skipped a beat, and she felt the walls she had built around herself begin to crumble, bit by bit. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't alone. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Zalara sat quietly, staring at the dim light flickering in the far corner of the station. The weight of the conversation still hung heavily in the air, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of unease that she couldn't quite shake off. Liam's words, the way he had looked at her, felt like something new, something she wasn't used to. She had always seen herself as a warrior, a weapon. But now, in the quiet solitude of the station, she was beginning to wonder if there was more to her than just the sharp edges of combat and survival. Liam, standing nearby, sensed the change in her. He had been watching her closely since their conversation, noticing the subtle shift in her demeanor. She was no longer the fierce, untouchable warrior. She was something else, something more human than he had anticipated. But that was what had drawn him to her in the first place. Her depth, the complexity hidden beneath the surface. He had seen it in her eyes, in the way she carried herself. There was strength, but there was also vulnerability, and that made her more real to him than any other creature he had ever encountered. "You're quiet," Liam said gently, breaking the silence that had settled between them. "What's on your mind?" Zalara didn't look at him immediately. She knew he was waiting, giving her the space to speak if she wanted to. It was strange, this feeling of being listened to, without judgment, without expectation. "I've never really had time to think about anything other than survival," she said slowly, her voice tinged with a rare softness. "I've been fighting for so long that I forgot what it's like to just be." Liam nodded, his expression empathetic. "It's easy to lose yourself in that kind of life," he said. "Fighting, surviving, always looking over your shoulder. But sometimes, you have to stop and breathe. You have to allow yourself to be more than just what you do." Zalara turned to him then, her silver eyes studying him closely. "How do you do it?" she asked quietly. "How do you just let go?" Liam met her gaze, his expression thoughtful. "I don't know if I ever truly let go, but I've learned that life is about more than just surviving. It's about connecting with the people around you, seeing the good in the world, even when everything else feels like it's falling apart." His words were simple, but they resonated deeply with Zalara. She had spent so long in a world of combat and isolation that the idea of connection, of truly letting someone in, was foreign to her. Yet, in this moment, standing here with Liam, it didn't seem so impossible. She could feel the walls she had built around herself beginning to crumble, piece by piece. "I don't know if I'm capable of that," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I've always had to rely on myself. No one else has ever been there for me." Liam took a step closer, his voice steady and reassuring. "You don't have to do it alone anymore," he said. "You don't have to carry the weight of the world by yourself." Zalara felt a strange warmth spread through her chest at his words. It was an unfamiliar feeling, one that she had pushed away for so long. But now, as she looked into Liam's eyes, she realized that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to be alone anymore. Maybe it was time to trust, to let someone in, and to see where that path could lead. For the first time in a long while, Zalara allowed herself to hope. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to face it. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice soft with gratitude, "for showing me that there's more to life than just fighting." Liam smiled, the warmth of his gaze reaching her. "You're welcome. And you don't have to thank me. I'm just glad I'm here." They stood there for a moment, the quiet hum of the station around them, but it felt different now. It felt like the beginning of something new. Something neither of them could have predicted, but both were willing to explore. And as the moments passed, Zalara realized that, for the first time in a long while, she was ready to face the unknown, not with fear, but with the possibility of something greater. Something worth fighting for. The days passed slowly aboard the station, and for the first time, Zalara found herself embracing the quiet. The stillness of the station, once suffocating, now felt peaceful, even comforting. She had always been a creature of action, a warrior at heart. But being here with Liam, away from the chaos of the galaxy, was something different. It was as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Liam had shown her that there was more to life than just the battle for survival. There was time for reflection, for understanding. He had taught her that it was okay to just be, to not constantly be fighting, constantly be running. One evening, as the two of them sat together, looking out at the distant stars, Zalara spoke again, her voice softer than usual. "I never thought it could feel like this," she said, her words a mix of wonder and something else, something almost like fear. "Like what?" Liam asked, turning his gaze toward her, sensing the change in her tone. "Like peace," she replied, the word feeling strange on her tongue. "I've never known peace. Not truly. But here, with you, it's different." Liam smiled, that gentle smile she had come to appreciate so much. "You deserve peace, Zalara. You deserve a life where you don't have to fight every day just to survive." Her heart skipped a beat at his words. She had spent so many years in the fight, so many years convinced that survival was all that mattered. But here, in this moment, she realized that there was so much more to life than just staying alive. There was love, understanding, and connection, things she had pushed away for so long. "I don't know how to let go of all the fighting," Zalara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's all I've ever known." Liam reached out, his hand resting gently on hers. "It's not about letting go of everything at once," he said softly. "It's about taking small steps, about choosing to embrace the moments that matter, instead of just surviving." Zalara turned her hand over, interlacing her fingers with his. The gesture felt so simple, so natural, and yet it held so much meaning. "And what if I fail?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Then you try again," Liam said, his voice steady and reassuring. "And I'll be here, every step of the way." There was a quiet sincerity in his words that made Zalara's chest tighten. For the first time, she felt something other than the cold, sharp edge of survival. She felt hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, she could have something more. Something worth fighting for. As the stars outside the window shimmered softly, Zalara leaned her head against Liam's shoulder, her breath steady and calm. She had always believed that her path was one of solitude and struggle. But now, with Liam by her side, she realized that there was another way. A way where she didn't have to face the universe alone. And as the silence stretched on between them, Zalara allowed herself to embrace that thought. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream of something different, something beyond the fight. And in that quiet, peaceful moment, she knew that whatever the future held, she wouldn't have to face it alone. Days blended together as they continued their quiet existence on the station. Zalara found herself growing more comfortable with the stillness, more at ease with the simple routines they shared. She had never known a life like this before, one where every moment didn't feel like a battle. The station, once cold and impersonal, now felt like a place where she could breathe, a place where she could exist, without the constant pressure of her past weighing her down. Liam had become a steady presence in her life, someone who didn't need her to be anything other than herself. And for the first time, Zalara wasn't afraid to be herself. She didn't have to prove anything to him. They spent their days in easy companionship, talking about everything and nothing, learning about each other in ways that neither had expected. Liam was patient, allowing her the space she needed while also showing her that it was okay to let someone in. But as the days passed, Zalara couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing between them. It wasn't just the peace she had found, it was him. Liam had become more than just a companion. He was a friend, someone she could trust, someone she could rely on. And as much as that scared her, it also gave her something she had never truly had before: hope. Hope for a future that wasn't defined by her past. Hope that maybe, just maybe, she could have a life that was different, one where she wasn't always running from something. One evening, as they sat together, watching the stars from the small observation deck, Zalara found herself lost in thought. She had never allowed herself to dream of a future before. It had always been about survival, about getting through the day. But now, with Liam by her side, she couldn't help but wonder what else there could be. "What happens next?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with uncertainty. Liam turned to her, his eyes reflecting the quiet intensity of the moment. "Next?" he repeated, as if considering the question. "Well, I suppose we keep going. We keep moving forward, one step at a time." Zalara looked out at the stars, the vastness of space stretching out before them. It was both daunting and beautiful, a reminder of how far they had come and how much more there was left to discover. "But what if I'm not ready?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I'm not ready to move forward?" Liam's gaze softened, and for a moment, there was a deep understanding between them. "You don't have to be ready all at once," he said gently. "You take it one step at a time, and I'll be here every step of the way." Zalara turned to look at him, her heart beating a little faster. There was something in his eyes, something that told her that he wasn't just offering her words of comfort. He was offering her his support, his belief in her. And in that moment, something shifted inside her. She had spent so long thinking that she had to do everything on her own, that she had to be strong all the time. But Liam had shown her that strength didn't come from being alone. It came from letting others in, from sharing the weight of the world with someone who cared. I think I'm ready to try," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Liam smiled, the warmth in his expression reaching her. "Then we'll take it slow, together," he said. And for the first time, Zalara believed him. She believed that, no matter what the future held, she didn't have to face it alone. And that, she realized, was the beginning of something new, something worth fighting for. The station had become more than just a refuge. It had become a place where Zalara could finally start to breathe. Every day felt like a new beginning, a chance to shape a life she had never thought possible. The walls that had once surrounded her, built from years of pain and battle, were slowly coming down. She had learned to trust Liam, to open herself up in ways she never thought she could. And with each passing day, she found herself more drawn to him, not just as a companion, but as someone who made her feel whole in a way no one else had ever done. The stars outside the observation window glimmered, their silent beauty a reminder of the vastness of the universe. Zalara had always felt small, just another soldier in the endless war between species. But now, with Liam by her side, she felt like she could finally see beyond the darkness. She wasn't just a warrior anymore. She was a person, a being with the ability to choose a different path. "Liam," she said one evening, her voice soft but filled with purpose. "I've been thinking about what you said, about not having to be alone, about finding something more than survival." Liam turned to her, his expression patient and kind. He knew what was coming. He had seen the change in her, felt it too. "And he?" asked, his voice steady. Zalara took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I think I'm ready to move forward. Not just with you, but with my life. To leave behind the past, all the things that made me who I was before. I want to be more than that." There was a flicker of something in Liam's eyes, pride, maybe, or relief. "You already are," he said softly. "You've always been more than your past, Zalara. You just didn't see it until now." Her heart swelled at his words, and for the first time, she felt like she truly understood what they meant. It wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about accepting it and choosing to create something new. She had always been afraid of what would happen if she let go, if she allowed herself to believe in a future that didn't involve constant struggle. But now she knew. She didn't have to fear what came next. She could face it head on, with Liam by her side. "So, what do we do now?" she asked, her voice filled with quiet anticipation. Liam smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. "Now, we take each day as it comes," he said. "Together. They stood there for a long moment, the sound of the station's hum filling the space between them. But the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that came with understanding, with the knowledge that no matter what, they would face it together. Zalara felt a sense of peace settle over her, a peace that she hadn't known in years. She was ready for whatever came next. And for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. With Liam, the man who had shown her a new way of living, a way that didn't involve constant fighting, constant fear, a way that offered hope, connection, and a chance for something more. And as she looked out at the stars, she realized that maybe, just maybe, the universe wasn't as vast and empty as she had once believed. Maybe it was full of possibilities, full of people who could change everything if you just let them. With Liam by her side, Zalara knew that she was ready to embrace whatever the future held. Because now, she wasn't facing it alone.